Welcome back to Uncle Dan's Backyard Barbecue. If you like this channel, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Today we're going to be doing some prime rib out on the Twin Eagles, rotisserie style. So what I like to do is, I like to get a nice prime cut, and I have the butcher cut the bones off and then string the bones back on so you get that nice flavor, and then it's easier to slice when we're done, and I'll show you after we get this thing cooked. So the first thing we're going to do is today, I like to take and get it all seasoned up. So I'm going to use some mustard as our binder on our prime rib. Just get it nice and covered here, the sides. And then, so we're just going to, I like to do this a couple hours before I put it out on the grill. I like to let it sit and let that salt. So we're going to be using, you know, what we use for our brisket. I'm going to be using salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, and that's what we're going to use for our seasoning today. So I want to get it nice and coated, get our binder on there on all sides. And so I'm going to take this. This is our salt, pepper, and garlic. Oops, other side. And we're just going to cover it like we do our briskets, all the sides. And then we're going to let it rest for a couple hours before we put it on the skewer and then put it out on the grill. So get a nice prime rib roast. Okay. And I got some coarse salt here as well. I like to put some coarse salt on here and pat that into this meat. Let this salt start. I mean, it's a pretty big, thick piece of meat, so you want to get it, let it sit. So it's just some simple little coarse salt. Okay, get that. And then I'll do a little bit more pepper on this. Some really big, coarse pepper. So we get a little fine coat on the inside, or get a fine coat at the beginning, and then we'll put this on here. So I'm going to let this sit for a couple hours like this out here in the air, because I just took it out of the refrigerator. Kind of let this meat get to room temperature. Then we'll put it on the rotisserie, and we'll rotisserie it. Today we're going to be rotisserieing at 400 degrees, and I'm just using plain regular old charcoal pellets. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to let this rest. I'll get it skewered up and we'll take it out to the grill. All right, while we have our prime rib resting, I'm going to go ahead and make the basting sauce. So I start off with a stick of butter in here and just some olive oil. So we're going to do butter, olive oil, and I have some fresh garlic that's going to be here. So we're going to put some of this fresh garlic in here. I just squeeze this out. And then I have some fresh chopped rosemary. So this is going to go in here. And then I have some thyme, some fresh, so all fresh ingredients being chopped. And just put these in here. This is going to be what we're going to use as our basting sauce. So I'm going to let this, I'm going to heat this up like so. Get it all nice and melted. There we go. And just kind of, you know, and we'll get this heated in here. We're going to use this as our baster. And I like to throw in some coarse salt, just a little bit of salt in there. Get this nice and heated. We're really just trying to melt this butter down. Once we get this stick of butter melted with the garlic and thyme and the rosemary, we're just going to let this sit. And so while we get our prime rib on the grill, we'll let this sit and let this get nice and flavorful. And then we'll use this, and I'll show you I'm going to use the leftover rosemary and thyme, and I'm going to make a basting brush out of it. That's kind of what I'm going to do here for this prime rib. Okay, so we'll just let this melt, and then once this gets nice and melted, it'll be ready to use. So while that's, you know, melting, I'm going to go over and take and make our basting brush. All right, so now I'm taking the leftover thyme and rosemary from our package. I got some kitchen string and some shish kebab skewers I'm going to use as our handle. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to start making this nice and tight around our shish kebab sticks. And we're going to make this as our basting brush. We're going to use this. So I'm going to tie a couple knots in here. And it needs to be super, super tight around here, because once you get that basting sauce on here that we made for this prime rib, you want to make sure it doesn't fall off. So I'm going to tie a knot, and I'm going to just kind of wrap around here. Make sure I try to get all the extra on here. And then I'm going to maybe make another knot here, like so. And just making a homemade basting brush with these leftover seasonings. These are going to be great fresh herbs onto this prime rib. So we're going to use it like this, and I'll cut the extra string off here, just like so, with my kitchen shears. So this is what it's going to look like. And so we'll use this. We'll put this as our baster, and this is kind of how I'm going to use as our baster a couple of shish kebab sticks. All right, it's pretty simple. All right, we got our grill up to temp. We're going to put this in here. So we're going to move our prime rib over to the rotisserie. A little windy today. So what we want to do is we want to get it centered. Get this nice and centered in the middle of the grill. It's getting hot already. As you can see, we've now let it rested. We'll turn on the rotisserie. And this should take about 3 hours or so. And at the 2 hour mark, we'll come back and we'll start basting. All right, we hit our 2 hour mark. So here we go. We're gonna take our basting. We're just gonna use this as we made it earlier. We're gonna use this to baste onto our prime rib. Just give it a nice little basting on both sides. Okay, and we'll continue to do this every 15 minutes till we're at the proper temperature, which we're looking for about 135 inside the middle of the meat.